What's up, Tweener heads? Welcome back to another Tweener head tennis video today here on our channel. If you're new to the channel, hey, how's it going? My name's Phil, and this is where we get to talk about tennis in a more casual way for you guys to understand what's going on and off the court. Today was officially the release of the 2020 Roland Garros draw. Now, for the men's and singles draw, we're going to be breaking them down, seeing the matchups that we want to go through, and seeing the paths that Rafa, Novak, Serena, and even our recent Grand Slam winner of 2020 team is going to be going through. So stay tuned for that. But if you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button so that way you don't miss any new videos we're posting here on Tweener Head Tennis. I really want you guys to join the family and see what we're doing, go behind the scenes of the tennis world, and just see what's coming up as well. So make sure you hit that subscribe button as well as making sure notifications are turned on. Let's start the video. So we're going to be taking a look at each quarter of the draw. So we're going to start with the women's draw. There's 4 quarters, so we're going to do top, bottom, bottom. And we're going to be doing that for the men's and women's draw. So let's get straight into it. So looking at the women's draw, we have the first seed, Simona Halep, taking on Sorribes Tormo in the first round. Bego Teichmann, I actually kind of like that matchup. You have 2 Americans facing off against each other, too. Cici Bellis and Bernarda Pera. Interesting matchup right there. Korchpach versus Anisimova. Good round. Yastremska versus Gavrilova. Gavrilova even tweeted out recently that she said she would get DY. DY standing for just Diana Yastremska. So that's going to be an interesting first-round match, to say the least. Kailinskaya versus Bouchard. That's a decent matchup. Su Wei-Shea, our favorite player, the GOAT of the WTA Tour. Definitely check out our video we made of her. We definitely called her the GOAT, so definitely check out that video. But Su Wei-Shea is playing a qualifier or qualifie, and this was the next 2 matchups are probably the best matchups of the draw so far. We have Vondrousova versus Swiatek, 2019 runner-up at the French Open versus a young Polish player, Iga Swiatek, interviewed here in D.C., so go check that out. Then you have Johanna Konta, the 9 seed, versus Coco Gauff. I mean, those are 2 great matchups that you have to watch. I don't care if I just don't care. Just go watch these matches. These are a lot of fun to watch. Then you have Camila Giorgi versus the Qualifie versus Rogers. Sakkari versus Tomljanovic, another great matchup that you have to watch as well. Another good one. Kuznetsova seeded. She's the 28th seed versus Pavlyuchenkova. I want to see if you can spell Pavlyuchenkova without looking at her name. Do it in the comments below. Try it out. I want to see if you guys can do that. Then you have Cyniaco versus Lauren Davis, solid. Monica Puig versus Qualifie. Savastika versus Bertens. I've actually hit with Savastika. We played a practice set at Indian Wells, and I swear this chick kicked my ass. I think it was, 6-1? I couldn't even hold my damn serve. It was so embarrassing. It's so embarrassing. Okay, so out of all of these, the 3 matchups I definitely want to watch is Swiatek versus Vondrousova, Konta versus Gauff, and Tomljanovic versus Sakkari. Oh, I'm sorry. Sakkari. Because that's how we pronounce it now. We've been pronouncing it wrong for the last couple years she's been on tour. So ever since the WTA came out with that pronunciation preview that you can now access, she pronounces it Sakkari, not Sakkari. So, okay, moving on. So that's the first half of the top. So for the bottom half of the first half of the draw, you got Elena Svitolina as the 3 seed versus Varvara Gracheva. I'm so sorry, I do not know how to pronounce that. Versus a Qualifie. Anna Blinkova, very good player, solid player from Russia playing a Qualifie. Madison Ingles versus Alexandrova. Not bad. Kontaveit versus Garcia. That's a good first-round matchup as well. Sasnovich versus Friedman. Buskova versus Kanepi. Gasparian versus Mertens, okay. Azarenka versus Kovanich. Who would Azarenka have to play in the round of 16? Oh, Serena Williams. Great. Jeez. Glova versus Venus Williams. Grietmanen versus Qualifie. Flipkins versus Putintseva. Stritsova versus Qualifie. Stojanovic versus Krejcikova. Stojanovic versus Krejcikova, Pironkova versus Petkovic, and then Christian versus Serena Williams. In what world are we going to make them play another first round? For me, when that happens, I don't understand what's going on through a tournament director's mind when it's like, oh, they played first round of another Grand Slam. Let's just do it again. I mean, because if I know, like, when you think of rumors and stuff like that, it's like, is this draw not fixed, but is it planned out? And I mean, who knows? Let me know what you guys think if draws are fixed or more planned out than we think it is. Because when you see stuff like that, that has to be accidental, right? You can't have Christiane versus Serena Williams in 2 Grand Slam first rounders, right? That's how I see it. Now moving on to the bottom half of the draw. Sabalenka versus Pagula. That's another top matchup that I'm looking really forward to. Great ground strokes, big backhands too. I think Pagula is very underrated. She's definitely regarded as one of the top Americans, but I don't think enough people talk about her. So I'd love for you guys to definitely check out her match against Sabalenka. Then you have Kasatkina versus Harmony Tan. Now Hibino versus Qualifi. Zarina Diaz versus Anja Bor. That's a solid matchup as well. Jennifer Brady seeded, I think, for the first time in her career at the French Open, and well-deserved, too, because she's been playing out of her mind. She's playing a qualifier. She's the 21 seeded this year's French Open. Then you have Danielle Collins versus Qualifi. Kuzmova versus Kristina Pliskova, Carolina's twin sister. Zindansik versus Muguruza. Rybakina versus Sustea. That's actually a solid first-round matchup as well. 2 solid players. Rybakina, very quiet winner on tour. She's one of the top winners on the WTA Tour this year, so definitely watch her. Fiona Ferrer versus Heather Watson. That's a good one, too. I like that. Vogel versus Teague. Mikhail versus Muhova. That's actually a good one, too. I like that matchup as well. Muhova versus Mikhail. Donna Vekic versus Qualifi. Van Utichuk versus Rebecca Peterson. Tamea Babos versus Anna Bogdan. And then we're rounding off this quarter with Samsonova versus Kenin. This is quality right here, I think. This is pretty quality right here. I like this. I really do like this. 7 seed Petra Kvitova versus Ocean Dodin. If you speak French, can you pronounce that for me? Bolsova versus Paulini. Dianpari versus Hercog. Leyla Fernandez versus Magda Linette. That's a good one. Young Canadian talent playing a veteran Polish player like Linette. Very good, very fun matchup. I like that one. Kerber versus Juvan. Roos versus Burel. Burel, a wild card. Roos has been playing really well. She had a 3-set tough match against Serena Williams. I believe, was it the U.S. Open or Western Southern? I forget. But that was a really good match for her. And Russ has been playing really well, in my opinion. So definitely watch out for her at this year's Roland Garros. Then you have Chloe Paquette, another wild card, versus another French player, Elise Cornet. Zhang She versus Madison Keys, good for her. Madison Keys could get to face Petra Kvitova in the round of 16, I believe. Yes. And then Petra Martic, 13 seed, versus Misaki Doi. Pauline Parmentier versus Kudermentova. Sigmund versus Landanovic. In terms of personality contrast, Sigmund, and I'm blurry now. In terms of personality contrast, I do think it's going to be Temper Slaring versus Landanovic and Sigmund. Sigmund, that was probably one of my best interviews, and she's such a great person. Very down to earth, very straightforward with what she wants to accomplish and overcoming her injuries. Really fun. So if you haven't checked that out, go check that out. So I think that's going to be a very passionate matchup, to say the least. Then Gergis versus Risk, that's a good one as well. Stevens versus Diachenko. Kozlova versus Badoza. Badoza is another young Spanish player, up and coming on the women's tour. Ostapenko versus Brangle, that's a solid ground stroke battle. I like that one. And Karolina Pliskova as this 2 seed. So that was the women's draw. What do you guys think? Who's your favorite? Who is your dark horse? Who's most likely to be the biggest surprise? I mean, for me, when I'm looking at this draw as a whole, it's really hard to choose when you have all such good quality players playing in one big tournament. And this is where Grand Slams really test people's abilities. Look, Anisimova and Vondrousova were the biggest, I think, names that came out of the French Open last year. So I would love to see Anisimova get back to where she was. I believe she made the semifinals last year. So seeing her get back to winning at a Grand Slam, that would be amazing. I think in terms of the favorite, it's really hard because Osaka's not playing it, if you noticed. Osaka is definitely not playing it because of her hamstring injury, and she won the U.S. Open, so there's no point of her playing it. So for her, it's going to be, for everyone else, I should say, it's going to be a very different field. I mean, you have a bunch of former Grand Slam champions in this draw. not that many that have won the French in the past. I think the only one or two, I believe there's only 4 returning French Open champions: Muguruza, Halep, Serena, Ostapenko, and there's definitely a lot of them that have won doubles Grand Slams here at the French Open, like Davidovich. But in terms of singles winners, I think there's only 4 out of the total field that have previously won the French. So we'll see. I think Halep didn't play the best in Rome, but she still won because of Pliškova's retirement. But is it Halep's to lose for her winning her first Rome title and being a former French Open champion? It's going to be hard to see. Let's see who comes out on top on the women's side. Or is it Serena's to lose? Because right now, looking at who she has moving forward, you have Christian, Pironkova, Pekovic in round 2, Strycova in round 3, Azarenka or Venus in round 4, Svitolina, Mertens in the quarters, Halep, Bertens in the semis, or Pliškova, Kenin, or Kvitova in the final. So, I mean, in terms of who Halep could face, she can face Serena in the semifinals, but you have Tormo, Teichmann, who else? Then Anisimova probably in the 3rd round, Yastremska in the round of 16, or Vondrasova, who she played in the final in the round of 16 as well. And that you can face Kiki Bertens in the quarterfinals. I mean, or Kuznetsova, or Sakari, or Goff. I mean, I think Halep might have a tougher draw, I should say, going to the semifinals to play Serena if Serena gets that far this year. But whose is it to lose in your mind? Or whose is it to win? Let me know. Now, let's move over to the men's side. Starting off with Novak Djokovic as the 1 seed here in Paris. You have Djokovic versus Michael Yamir, one of the Yamir brothers. I feel so bad because the Yamir brothers are a very good young Swedish talent, and this is just a terrible break. Novak coming back and kind of lifting himself above the U.S. Open situation when he won in Rome. And low-key, Djokovic is one of the best clay court players of our generation. There, I said it. I think he's definitely better than Federer. I think he's definitely better than a lot of the field. And you forget that Novak's won 5 Rome titles. He's won Paris. He's won Monte Carlo. I mean, it's crazy to think that people regard him more as a hard court player, but if you think about it, he's just as good on the clay. So it's going to be interesting to see who he picks. It's going to be interesting to see who else he gets in this draw. Moving on, we got Hugo Delarin versus Berankis, Cameron Norrie versus Aquali, Sangre versus Hurkacz. That's a good first round. Gereen versus Cole Schreiber, 2 clay court specialists, in my mind at least. Cole Schreiber, a big veteran on tour, versus Gereen, who's very good on the clay. I think he has 15 wins this year alone on clay, and we've basically just had half a season, so that's a good look for him. Hugo Humbert versus Qualifi. Vesely, Qualifi, they just played each other in Hamburg. I didn't see the result, but they just played each other. So they're on the same, I believe they're on 2 different halves of the draw, I think. Not 2 different halves, but you guys know. Majicek versus Khachanov. Batista Agut versus Gasquet. I like that matchup. Gasquet versus Batista Agut. Congratulations to Batista Agut on becoming a father as well recently this week. Uchiyama versus Balaz. How do you pronounce that? Uchiyama versus Balazs. Pella versus Caruso. Millman versus Carreño Busta. Carreño Busta, unbelievable run at this year's U.S. Open. Got a little bit lucky with Novak Djokovic being defaulted, but he did have a good match versus Zverev. But I must say that 5-setter, if we recall that is probably one of the worst 5-setters we've ever seen. So we're just not going to revisit that. Struff, who is the 30 seed, playing Francis Tiafoe. Tiafoe cannot get a break. He recently lost to Musetti. Musetti playing unbelievably well right now for an 18-year-old Italian. He plays the seed killer, in my mind, Jan-Lennard Struff. And Struff is such a danger on clay or any surface when he plays big names. So definitely watch out for him in this half of the draw. Feliciano Lopez is playing a qualifi. Lloyd Harris versus Popper. And Popper and Harris, that's a decent one as well. And then you have Pospisil versus Berrettini. So Djokovic's road to the final, or semifinal, semifinal I should say. Yamir, Delian Berankis, Hurkacz Sangren, Khachanov Gereen, Roberto Batista Agut, Berrettini in the quarters, Mevidev Tsitsipas in the semis, and then Nadal team. Remember how I said that he's considered one of the best clay quarters of our generation besides Rafa? You think that draw is going to stop him to get to the quarters? No. It's like almost a guarantee. You know how like the only person that's beat him is himself this year? I don't think anyone's going to beat him to get to the semis, to be honest. So, let's see how that goes. Next up, you have Mevidev versus Fuchsovich. I actually think that's a great first-round matchup to watch and participate in and just be a part of because Fuchsovich plays super well. I think he's very underrated in my opinion. Playing Mevidev clay is definitely not his surface, but Fuchsovich, I think, could be possibly a first-round upset, in my opinion. So watch out for that. Manarino versus Ramones Vilas, Hiles versus Giron, Montero versus Basilashvili. That could also be an upset, too. A veteran Brazilian who grows up on clay playing Basilashvili. So that's going to be an upset alert right there for me. Lijovich versus Magur. Maya versus Davidovich Fokina. Davidovich Fokina could play Querrey or Rublev in the second round. This is a good opportunity for the young Spanish player to actually prove himself in a major. This should be good. Then you have Sam Querrey versus Rublev. Rublev being the 13th seed. Chapo versus Simon. That's not a bad first-round matchup. Johnson versus Carbales Baena. Martin versus Souza. Barrera versus Dimitrov. Krajinic versus Qualifi. Beden versus Arthur R. I am so sorry. I cannot pronounce that last name. Qualifi versus Cuevas. And Jamie Munar versus Tsitsipas. Good test for Jamie Munar. Kind of fell off after a lot of hype from him, I think, a year or two ago. So it's going to be interesting to see how well he gets there, to say the least. In terms of this quarter, my Rublev would be a good one to play out of. He would probably face Davidovich Fokina, Lijovich in the third round, Mevidev, or Fuchsovich in the round of 16, quarterfinals. He would probably play Tsitsipas or Dennis. Dennis played really well at Rome, so I would like, for me, if you were to consider, Shapovalov has already been successful this year, in my opinion, but for him to have a successful French Open, I would definitely say he has to reach at least the round of 16, at least. So to kind of round off the last Grand Slam of the year. Weird to say that because the French Open usually plays during the middle of the year. We're in fucking September. Moving down to the bottom half of the draw. You have Monfils, who's the 8th seed, playing Bublik. Good first-round matchup. I like that a lot. That should be fun to watch. Qualifi versus Sonego. Thompson versus Alba. Two solid players. That should be good. Qualifi versus Taylor Fritz. Korch versus Gumbos. Qualifi versus Shardy. Moutet versus Qualifi. Schwartzman versus Kecmanovic. I actually like that one. If you were to watch another first-round matchup on the men's side, Kecmanovic versus Schwartzman is definitely one to watch, at least. Because Kecmanovic won his first ATP title just recently on clay. So congratulations to him. And Schwartzman made the final of Rome, beating Rafael Nadal on the way, playing his best match of his entire career, I think, hands down. So definitely watch out for that match. And then Andy Murray versus... Oh, God. Why? Why do we have to do that? Why do you have to put Andy Murray and Wawrinka in the same fucking first round? Why? Why is that a thing? Why do you have to do that? We talked about how the French Open is planned. Or is... I don't even know what the word... You know how the French Open is planned? Or it's not rigged? You want ratings to go up? Let's just put Wawrinka and Murray after they had such a historic match on... Moving on, we have Dominic Kupfer versus Hong, Gaston versus Janvier, Nishioka versus Auger Aliassime. I like that matchup as well. That's a good first-round matchup. Ruud, first-time seeded at a Grand Slam tournament, being the 28th seed. He's good ranking right now. He's made top 30. He's 30th in the world, but he's the 28th seed here at the French Open. This is going to be a fun matchup to watch. Ruud versus Sagita, Tommy Paul versus Duckworth, Riley Opelka versus the Qualifi, and Cilic versus Team. Let's look at Team's road to the final. I don't think anyone could be as screwed as Team. The Prince of Clay, Grand Slam champion now, Dominic Thiem, his first round matchup is against Marin Cilic. Then he has to play Riley Opelka. Then, if you look at the rest of the draw that he has to face, let's take a gander, shall we? You have Cilic, Opelka, Ruud, who is a clay courter, in my opinion, Wawrinka, Schwartzman, Nadal. He's not even playing Nadal in the finals. He has to get through Nadal to get to the finals. You think the guy didn't have it hard enough winning the U.S. Open and cramping, basically, in the last, 10 minutes. But you're going to give him big server, up-and-coming player, former French Open champion, the guy that beat Rafa in Rome, Rafa, and then Novak. God, that's got to suck. I wonder if he's going to look at this. I wonder if he's going to look at the draw, because he's probably getting tweeted at so much, and his team's probably looking at this going, all right, you thought the U.S. Open was hard? Let's go through this draw and see what happens. Jeez Louise. That's going to be so tough. That's going to be so tough for him. In the bottom half, you have Zverev versus Denis Novak. I don't think Zverev has a chance at this year's French Open, in my opinion. I mean, he could probably get to the round of 16. But going down the list, you have he's playing Denis Novak, then a qualifié versus Herbert, Delbonis versus Lindero. De Minaur is the 25th seed. He's playing the qualifié. He would have to face De Minaur in the third round, and he is fast, so he can get around the court. Then you have Benoit Paire. I wonder if Benoit Paire is even going to play the match after everything that's going on. I mean, really. Guys, has pulled out a couple times now due to illness after the U.S. Open situation that he faced. It's going to be really hard for him to do that. He's playing Suwoo Kwon. Federico Coria just made the top 100. Congratulations to him versus a qualifié. Qualifié versus Rusevori, another young Finnish player. This match right here, Yannick Sinner versus David Gaufan, is one of my favorite matchups to watch. I really want to see that match. Gaufan being the 11th seed, Yannick Sinner, everyone should know about him by now, but Yannick Sinner, one of the top young talents on tour right now, and Italian with Lorenzo Musetti. He's even said Lorenzo Musetti is going to be better than him, and that's hard to believe because Yannick Sinner is so good right now at his age, so definitely watch out for that. Fonini versus Kikushkin right after that, and Fonini's probably going to get pretty mad playing a tricky player like Kikushkin. That's going to be very interesting to watch. A qualifié versus qualifié, then qualifié versus Seppi. Ben Chitrit versus John Isner. Daniel Evans versus Nishikori. Good first-round matchup right there. Andujar versus Travaglia. Qualifié versus McDonald. And Gerasimov versus Rafa. Looking at now, Rafa's the 2 seed. Let's look at his path of the draw. We got Gerasimov, McDonald, Evans, Fonini, Isner, Zverev, Gaufan, Thiem, Djokovic. Is that like an automatic, I'm making it to the quarters for him, right? Has to be. Really has to be. And if he's playing indoors too and the conditions are perfect for him, there's no reason why he shouldn't be making the quarterfinals. Hey, what do you guys think? So after going through the draw, there's a lot to still be considered. We still have qualifiers to make it. Actually, after seeing it on Twitter, congratulations to Liam Brody, who just made his main draw of the French Open. Our friend of the Tweener Head Tennis channel, Dama Golfi, just made it to the final round of qualifying as well. So good luck to her coming up tomorrow. So there's a lot to still be played. And after the news of a couple players testing positive for coronavirus and being exposed to someone and some coaches that have tested positive as well, there's still a lot to be considered moving forward with the French Open. So let me know what you guys thought. Leave a comment down below of who your favorite is, who the dark horse is, anything like that. I want to know down in the comments below. And if you made it this far into the video, I really appreciate you guys watching. Make sure to check us out on all our social medias, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, as well as our website at tweenerheadtennis.com. And if you want to support the channel, we have merch. So go check that out at our website at tweenerheadtennis.com/shop. I hope to see you guys next time for our next video. Hope you guys enjoy the French Open. Hope to see you guys soon. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks, guys.